So we continue now with this Gongchik commentary, a very brief commentary by Khenpo Kunpal. We stopped at statement 5 of chapter 1 yesterday. So now statement 6. So let me first read the statement itself. Statement 6 says, the seeds of the later turnings of the Dharma wheel exist in each of the previous ones. And keeping in mind that in statement 5 it says, in each turning of the wheel, all the others are included. All three. There being 3 turnings of the wheel. That's the usual expression. In statement 5 it says, in each turning of the wheel, all 3 are included. And now statement 6 says, the seeds of the later turnings of the Dharma wheel exist in each of the previous ones. So statement 6 is more I guess you could say in line with the general consensus that the seeds, right? What comes later already exists in the seed form in the earlier ones. So this is easier to explain. And so Khenpo Kunpal says more. In statement 6 he says, the seeds of each of the later Dharma wheels, or the later turnings of the Dharma wheel, exists in each of the previous ones. It is like it is said in the King of Meditative Concentration Sutra, all the discourses that I have taught in the thousands of worlds have different words but a single meaning. So you cannot express them all, unquote. Within the first turning of the Dharma wheel, the topics of emptiness and the lack of self are the seeds of the intended meaning of the middle turning of Dharma wheel. Within the middle teachings, the topics of the inexpressible, inconceivable, indescribable, and so forth are the seeds of the intended meaning of the last teachings. Within the last teachings, the descent to Lanka Sutra, the Lankavatara Sutra, and so forth, teach that the Exalted One first attained Buddhahood in the place of Akanishta, in the formless realm, and later again attained Buddhahood here in this world. Thus, the intended meanings of the mantra vehicle are also taught in the third turning the Dharma wheel. Hence, the hidden meanings of the previous teachings are taught clearly in the later ones. So this is, fairly uncontroversial, or at least this position has now been more or less universally accepted by all traditions of Tibetan Buddhism, which is to say that in the first turning of the wheel, the Buddha already hinted of things that he will teach in the second turning. And in the second turning, he hints at what he will reveal more fully in the third. And then in the third, so normally this 3 turnings of the wheel is often discussed only in the context of sutra material, not explicitly covering the secret mantra material. And here, Khenpo Kunpal, just to make clear, he says, so in the sutra material of the third turning, Buddha already hinted at what he will reveal more fully with using the secret mantra teachings. And sometimes in some sources, not Drigong, in some other lineages, especially I think in Jonangpa, they will say that secret mantra is the fourth turning of the Dharma wheel. Sometimes you can come across something like this. So statement 6 has now, at least now, has become fairly standard. It is really statement 5 that is a little unique to Kyopa Rinpoche. Now statement 7. Let me go read. Statement 7 says, due to the meaning of the sutras and the meaning of the stages of practice, it is certain that there are 3 turnings of the Dharma wheel. So here it actually says, like there are only 3. Now let's see, if we need to commit to thinking only 3 and not 4, and definitely not 5. Now it sounds like this Monty Python, the rabbit to destroy the count to 3. 2 is not enough. 4 is too many. I don't know if. Let's see. So in the commentary it says, furthermore, due to the meaning of the sutras and the meaning of the stages of practice, it is certain that there are 3 Dharma wheels. It is said in the Sutra Unraveling the Intent, this is the Samdhya Nirmochana Sutra. It is said in the Sutra Unraveling the Intent, concerning the vital points of the sutras, that the first and the middle Dharma wheels are disputed, and the last Dharma wheel is undisputed. The Exalted One taught that in order to abandon samsara, the stages of realization on the path need to arise in the mind. Lord Gampopa's system of 4 yogas has the same topic as the 3 Dharma wheels. Thus, it is also certain that there are 3 Dharma wheels because of the vital points of the meaning of practice. Might be a little bit unclear, what is going on here. Yeah? So here I would argue that we don't need to yet insist that there is only 3, not 4. 2 is not enough, 4 is too many. We don't have to say that yet, at least. Okay. But what this statement is saying is why there is this like 3 turnings, so to say. In this case, 3. First turning, second turning, third turning. It is because there are stages of development, generally speaking, that beings develop along the spiritual path in a certain gradual manner, sequential manner. Okay, gradual and sequential doesn't have to mean slow. Elsewhere, this issue is addressed. Gradual and sequential doesn't have to mean slow. Because sometimes gradual is contrasted with sudden. There, it's saying slow and fast. Right? Whenever they say there's the gradual way and then there is the sudden way. S-U-D-D-E-N, sudden. So it's talking about speed. But here, gradual doesn't necessarily connote slow. So one example in one of the Gongchik commentaries, it gives one of the commentaries say, when somebody shoots an arrow at a target, like a arrow shooting practice target, right? It's usually a very thick target with layers and layers of cloth, right, to form a very thick, like cushion. Yeah? And when the arrow shoots into this target, right, although it's very, very fast, right, this strong man shooting an arrow, otherwise it will not penetrate, right, all the layers. But in terms of the arrow penetrating the layers of this target, right, it's sequential, it's gradual, right? First layer first, right? Even in a split of a nanosecond, second layer, right? In another nanosecond, third layer, fourth layer, fifth layer, 6, 7, 8, 9, until the 100th layer. All happening in less than maybe 1 second, less than 2 seconds. But it is sequential. Nobody can legitimately claim, right? The first layer was hit at the same time, literally, as the 100th layer. No, it's sequential. So here, there are 3 turnings because beings generally develop in a sequential way. So it need not be literally 3, because here, as Khenpo Kunpal says, now Lord Gampopa's system of the 4 yogas. So there, Gampopa discusses the path in terms of the 4 yogas. These are the 4 yogas of Mahamudra. And so the 4 yogas, clearly, it doesn't, it's not the 3 turnings of the wheel. But Khenpo Kunpal here says, these 4 yogas, although they're called the 4 yogas, they correspond with the general sequence of spiritual development and maturation that is taught in the 3 turnings of the wheel. So our translator provides us this footnote, which I believe the footnote is clarified by the Lama that guided the translation of this text, Khenchen Nimagyazen. Here it says, Gampopa's first yoga of one-pointedness corresponds to the first Dharma wheel, the second yoga of freedom from elaboration, and the third yoga of one taste correspond to the second turning, and the fourth yoga of no more meditation corresponds to the third turning of the Dharma wheel. So if you go back to statement 7, it says, due to the fact, right? The basic statements say, due to the sutras, due to the meaning of the sutras and the meaning of the stages of practice, it is certain that there are 3 turnings of the Dharma wheel. So here we can understand this statement as saying that when we look at the sutras, we see that there are stages of maturation taught in there. And then if we look at the instructions compiled by the great lineage masters, which is these texts called the stages of practice, the Lamrim, we also see that there is a gradual sequence taught there. And therefore from there we know that the Buddha had quote-unquote the three turnings of the Dharma wheel. So in any case, the three turnings of the Dharma wheel is not referring to three instances that the Buddha taught. In fact, like the first Dharma wheel includes many, many different teachings, many, many sermons, many, many instructions. The second turning, many, many as well. Later in this Gongchik statement, the Buddha, Kyoba Rinpoche tackles the issue of like, is the three turnings divided in terms of when in the Buddha's lifetime did he teach these things? So some people have this idea that, oh, the first turning of the wheel was like, say, the Buddha taught for altogether about 45 years. And because in the biography, it says that Siddhartha became Buddha at the age of 35, and then he passed away at 80 or 81 in some sources. So then it's about 45 years. So some people say, oh, for those 45 years, the first 15 years was everything taught in the first 15 years was the first turning. Then, in the next 15 years, everything taught was the second. The last 15 years, everything taught was the third. And in Kyopa's statements, you'll see that he will address that issue. And basically, he says, no, it's not like that. It's not based on when in his life he taught this or that. It's based on something else. And here also to point out about the commentary, this is, I would say, later concerns, which Kyoba Rinpoche himself, I don't think he considered this an important issue, and therefore he didn't get involved in these debates, which is once again the whole thing about definitive or not definitive. Which one is more definitive than which one? But here, Khenpo Kunpal, many centuries later, even a millennia later, he can't help but have to kind of get into that. So here it says, quoting the Sandhina-mochana, the Sutra Unraveling Intent, it says that the first and the middle Dharma wheels are disputed, and the last Dharma wheel is undisputed. Meaning the first and the second is not definitive, the third is definitive. If you look at this, you're like, why is this even brought up here, It doesn't seem very connected to this Vajra statement. But that is how dominant this idea of, some of Buddha's teachings are more profound than some of the Buddha's other teachings. And so once you entertain that, once you have that mindset, then you are constantly, I feel, oh, which is more profound, which is more profound, which is more profound, which is more profound. Kyoba Rinpoche, I feel, has a very, skillful and correct, of course I'm biased, skillful and correct way to say, no, they are all profound. If it is a teaching from the Buddha, it's profound. And it's definitive. All of them. Definitive within the context of who needs to hear it. The person who needs to hear it cannot have the attitude or the understanding that, oh, my understanding now, it's not definitive. If it is not definitive, why keep that one? Right? Why take seriously? Why even practice if it is not definitive? So you practice it as this is what you need. And also you don't get into this habit of running around looking for what's more profound, what's more profound, what's more profound. As many of you, at least in the Zoom group I see here, you all know enough about Khenpo Rinpoche's style. Khenpo Rinpoche will basically say, you, in a sense, you are the one. The practitioner is the one that is going to experience these teachings as profound or not profound. Insofar as what the Buddha himself taught, they are profound, they are the one single Dharma, and they have no divisions. In the Great Drigong Teachings to the Assembly, which I see here, some of you were there. Omar, Patricia, and Maurice, right? Remember this one teaching, he says, there is no great vehicle, even vehicles, He says, there is no great vehicle and lesser vehicle when it comes to the Buddha's teachings. And great and lesser is referring to the capacity. Tere as well, refers to the capacity of the listeners. If the capacity is small, then that becomes lesser vehicle. If the capacity is great, that becomes the great vehicle. He's not completely, Khenpo Rinpoche is not completely denying. There are the secret mantra teachings, and technically they belong to Mahayana. There are the Buddha nature teachings, and technically they belong to Mahayana. He's not denying that. He's saying that point is secondary to the point of it's about you and how mature your level of understanding is. Right? So he says if you have the capacity and the level of maturity of the highest, simply practicing, keeping the vows of individual liberation, would turn that practice into the highest practice, thus giving rise to the highest results. But if your capacity is still limited, if your capacity is still small, even practicing the profound instructions of Vajrayana, and the winds, drops, and channels, even practicing the liberating instructions of Mahamudra, what you will achieve is very small, very limited. So this is a characteristic of Khenpo's teachings where, and because of this, Khenpo doesn't want to get into all this. Probably he finds it distracting attitudes and debates about, this teaching is more profound than this teaching is more less profound than this teaching should be here, this teaching should be here, this teaching should be here, this is the most profound, let's quickly all get to the most profound. Then by extension, this teacher is more profound than this teacher is more profound than that teacher. So he cuts through all of that, 1.8, statement 1.8. Statement 8 says, the Vinaya collection is the Dharma wheel of the four truths of the Noble Ones. And so this is now matching The Vinaya collection, right, is the turning of the Dharma wheel of the four truths of the noble ones. The four, what we normally translate as the four noble truths. So 1.8 says, this is because the main topic of the Vinaya chiefly concerns the training of ethical conduct, and extensively would discuss the vows and the practices of monks and nuns. Because the vows of the monks and nuns are the most extensive vows of all 7 types of vows. The 7 types are layman, laywomen, novice monk, novice nun, fully ordained monk, fully ordained nun. And then there's the 7th one, which is called the probationary nun. And that is a temporary status between being a novice nun and a fully ordained nun. There is one category. We don't, now is not the time to discuss, the details of these things. But here in these 7 sets of 7 situations or 7 levels of vows that one could keep, the monks and nuns, fully ordained monks and nuns vows are the most extensive. So the Vinaya primarily is concerned with that. So when we say the Vinaya collection, you should know that this is a reference to how soon after the historical Buddha's passing, his disciples gathered together for 90 days, we are told, whereby they compiled all the teachings of the Buddha. So it is said that they were compiled into 3 general collections. The collection that pertains to the Vinaya, the collection that are what's known as sutras, and then the collection that is known as the higher Dharma, the Abhidharma. So these are the 3 collections called the Tripitaka. So here it says, of the Tripitaka, particularly the Vinaya collection. So here it says, this is because the main topic of the Vinaya is to properly present what is to be taken up and what is to be abandoned with regards to the 4 truths of the noble ones. And then of the 4 truths, the first 2 belong to completely is focused on afflictions, the first 2 noble truths. And the last 2 noble truths is focused on the removal, the clearing of the afflictions. And so elsewhere the Buddha says, I have taught dukkha and the cessation of dukkha. So it's the same point here in this commentary. Meaning the 4 noble truths can be further summarized and compacted into 2 points. The Buddha taught about dukkha, and in that context, the ways in which dukkha is everywhere, and where this dukkha comes from. Dukkha and the cause of dukkha. Then the 3rd and the 4th noble truth, the end of dukkha and how to end dukkha. So it pertains to, here Khenpo Kunpal says, complete purification. And in terms of then actualizing or practicing, in other words, the take-home lesson, I like to use that that expression. The take-home lesson of the 4 noble truths is basically how to use the vows that the Buddha gave us in order to prevent the creation of dukkha, and to also clear dukkha. Prevent the creation of dukkha and clear the causes of dukkha. So the Vinaya is the Dharma wheel, the turning of the Dharma wheel of the four truths of the noble ones. Yeah, so today we will stop here. Tomorrow we will look at statement 9, which is also relating to the vehicles and the turning of the wheel. So there, just to point out, okay, there are a few related categories when it comes to these discussions. There is the three turnings of the Dharma wheel, which is primarily the vocabulary used in this first chapter, the Vajra Statements of this first chapter. In fact, this first chapter, right, is called the turnings of the Dharma wheel. Is the title of chapter 1. The vital points regarding the turning of the Dharma wheels. So that's one category. Closely related to this category is, of course, the three yanas, the three vehicles. Then closely also related to this is the three collections, the Tripitaka, and the Vinaya, the Sutra, and the Abhidharma. Then closely related to this too are the three sets of vows, which is actually the title of chapter 3, 4, 5, are the three sets of vows. When you put these 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, you can sort of say, that the first of this is the same as the first of this, which is the same as first of this, which is the same as first of this. Yeah, the three turnings, three vehicles, three sets of vows, three collections. You can kind of draw a straight line across. The first of this is related to the first of this, related to the first of this, related to the first of this. The second of this related to the second of this, to the second of this, to the second of this. The third related to, sort of. In some places they break down. They don't work like that. But they're closely related. Therefore, the Vajra Statements in this first chapter, you are going to find these 3, 4 sets of these 3, 4 organizational sets to kind of overlap. Yeah. So that's just some general comments on these categories called the 3 collections, the 3 turnings, the 3 vows, the 3 vehicles. As usual, now we end with the bodhicitta dedication.